Yeah. Okay. Hello everyone. Good morning and good evening. So first of all, I want to tell you something. Thing is actually we have. I mean, I have taken many leaves in between because the batch has started long ago. But yeah, I'm very sorry about it because the reason is some family issues. Like I think it's like one of our close relative has expired. Due to COVID, okay. So we were, I'm just going here and there and not in a proper mindset to, start all this, right? And that this finish. And so from today, I can strongly say that there is no more leaves in between. Okay, so I'm very sorry about the late intimations for the meeting and cancellations and all. Okay, so going forward, no much such kind of leaves or something. Okay, so fine. So that's the reason. And yeah, so now let's start with. Um, okay, fine. So let's start with. Okay. Okay, so where we were actually, I think I just came from, I just came from outside. I don't know. Let's see. Okay, so workspace, Angular evening batch, types it over. Yes, Angular fundamentals. So we were discussing about Bootstrap. Okay, fine, got it. So when Okay, once we started the Angular, so we discussed the folder structure and how to apply the styles and how to apply the Bootstrap styles also we discussed. I think we made some four different cards and we apply some styles as well using Bootstrap. Yes, done. So now today we're gonna discuss about data binding concept in Angular. Okay, so thanks for understanding. Yep. So today data binding. Okay, so data binding in let's write properly, data binding in Angular. Okay, so what is data binding? So data binding generally, if you talk about a component, for example, let me write something here. So if you talk about the architecture of Angular, so you will be generally have a component. Assume this is your component, and in that we have in that we have the HTML part. Okay, and also we can have the TypeScript part. Okay, so assume this black color one is your Angular component. Okay, and this red one is your template we call. Actually the template is nothing but your HTML file. Okay, and this will be the model we call, that is actually your .ts file. Okay, so the data can be provided from this ts file and you're going to show that data. Yeah, you're going to show that data in HTML. Okay, so generally every component will have the presentation logic as well as the data. The model logic is separated. Okay, so what is data binding concept is you need to link between the HTML and the TS file. So how both can be in sync. For example, if you have a JS file earlier, we have a HTML file and we have a JS file. So any events are happening between, right? If any event is triggered, if any event happened in HTML, okay, so you will attach a function for event listener and you will do some logic in that JS file and you also display that content here. So you will bind it through document object, right? In JavaScript. So document.query selector, document.get element by ID and all you will do regularly. This core JavaScript, the plain JavaScript, vanilla JavaScript. But here, same story, how can you manage? Okay, so how can you do that binding between your HTML presentation layer and the background, the TS file, okay, the actual component data? So how can you bind between and how to handle the events? Okay, how you display the content? So everything comes under data binding, and this component is a is just a piece of code, a piece of UI on the entire page. So there internally how data is going to bind between that component specific HTML to the TS file. That's called data binding. And if you see a large picture, this component can also interact in future with something called a service. Okay, so this whole component can have a connection with something called services. Okay, and so inside there are some other concepts like interceptor, guards. So a lot of concepts will come, and this service is actually connected to the server. Okay, so using some HTTP clients module, it's connected to the server. Okay, service is a data layer of Angular. So this is server or database, the background process. Okay, this how actually, and if you involve with NGRX and all, that's again separate story. You have actions or store, dispatcher, reducer. So long story. So in this entire story, first we discuss complete focus on a component. So once we are done with the complete component data binding and everything, then we'll discuss services, how to integrate the data layer to this component, and how to fetch data from a server. So we'll see. Okay, and then we'll start with routing, form validation on the story. Okay, so as of now I'm not discussing all these boxes because this is we have a lot of time to understand about each. So now let's only focus on component. In that component, every component we have, we all know, right? Component means which contains one HTML file, one CSS file, and one TS file, and also one spec.tss for test cases. Just ignore that as of now. So in component, in a particular component, we have a custom tag for that, right? Every component will have a custom tag. So for that component, how can you bind the HTML and TS file? So this part we'll see now. Okay, so that's concept is data binding. Okay, so in Angular, we can make this data binding in multiple ways. Around four ways we can do. The very first one in data binding, let me zoom it. That's called interpolation. Interpolation means the syntax goes to be like this one. This also called as Angular expression. Okay, so this is called interpolation or Angular expression. Is this is the symbol, and after that we have something called property binding. Property binding, we can just binding to the HTML attributes with some dynamic value. How to do the property binding here is one second, my internet is gone. Yeah, so how to do the property binding is this one, this curly braces audio. Now it's clear, right? Yeah, it's got disconnected. My LAN is little. Okay, I hope now it's fine. Hello, audible, right? Yeah. Okay, thank you. Yeah. Yeah, sure. Okay. Yeah. So property binding. This is another way of binding. And third one we have events binding. Okay, events binding we can actually do with this symbol. Okay, we can configure some events, and we also have another one that is called um, something I miss. Okay, interpolation, property binding, events binding, and one more is that template reference variable. Okay, the template reference variable will be something hash, some ID, we can use it. Okay, so this is all about data binding, but we have to discuss each one. Okay, so let's start with interpolation. Okay, so this is a very basic one. Okay, so generally we use mostly this one to bind any data from your TS file to HTML dynamically. We have seen this earlier also. I just explained this complete story about it. Okay, so let's do one thing. I have okay, I have some other projects. Okay, let me load the first projects, that is first tab. Let me copy this. So file, open, paste. Okay, okay, fine. And let me Okay, we have earlier discussed the card component of I think Bootstrap it is. Let me delete. Okay, so we will do from scratch. Okay, so in app component also I think I have configured it. Let me delete. Anything else? I think app module also it was there. This is not required. Here is not required. Okay, fine. Okay, I just taken same bootstrap example, but I cleared the component folder and I removed this variant already is configured in app.h app.component and app module. I removed it. Okay, so now it's fresh application with bootstrap. Okay, so already bootstrap is configured. Fine. So let me start the application for time being, and then we'll discuss about data binding. So npm start. Two-way data binding we'll discuss that concept is you understand with forms, so there is a separate concept called forms binding, then I tell you how to do this two-way. Okay, first I show you one-way data binding and then we'll convert to two-way forms binding. That will come in coming classes. Okay, now at least we should have a basic understanding what is meant by the binding and some sort of examples. So going forward, we'll see events binding also we have a lot of examples, and forms binding also we have examples. So there we'll see how to perform a two-way data binding. Okay, and we also see the form validation. You can do form validation two ways in Angular. Okay, and we'll do authentication, routing and all. First, come on, why this? Hmm. Okay, I just restart my system, so maybe it's a bit slower. Come on. Okay, started. Come on, dude. Any other process running? Can we stop one more time? Is it required to learn how to create component manually? No, not required, not required. Actually, you can do it with all commands only. And since very long, I think many days people have started using that. So you can go with the Angular CLI. Okay, fine. Come on, dude. Sorry. npm ngserve, right? You can use ngserve or npm start both. So I tell you, both will work. Both will work because if you do npm start, it is like in the package. It will go to actually package.json. It run the command called, where is the package.json? Yep, in package.json, it runs the command start command. npm start, if you do, it executes start command. That is nothing but ngserve. You can do directly ngserve or npm start. Okay, so going forward, I'll explain how many ways you can run the program, but just as of now, come on, 30, 50. Okay, yeah, I think it's doing now. How to stop? Yeah, cause correct. Control C only. How to stop means you can do one thing. You can close the terminal. It stops. Okay, Fine, so it is started. Let me go here. 127 4200 enter. First tab. Okay, fine. Application up to running, but I don't want this heading to Bootstrap because we already discussed Bootstrap concepts. So let me change this. Where is that? This is coming from app component. App component. So Angular with data binding. So slowly we learn everything. Okay, don't worry. Yeah, refresh. Okay, so now application working. Yeah. First, let's start with interpolation. So how to bind a data between your TS file and HTML. So for this, I have an example. I think I have somewhere, not this one. Interpolation, right? This story. Okay, I tell you. So fine. I'll just take one. In the app, I create a folder called components. Okay. In components. Actually, we have to discuss four examples, one for interpolation, one for property binding like that. So can we take folders also in that way? In the components, I take a directory called interpolation for clear concept separation. We have a folder called interpolation and we have a folder called prop hyphen binding. Okay, we have another folder called events binding. So you can easily find that out. Events binding. And lastly, template reference variable, I create another folder called template reference, just select ref. Fine, you have four ways. And first, let's start with interpolation. In that, I want to create one component, a kind of card. So let me right click on this, open internal. Okay, you can just open because I want to create inside of this folder. Okay, so how you create a component is you have a command using Angular CLI ng generate component hyphen the name of the component. This is how you do, but you have a shortcut as well. Ng G for generate, C for component, and then you can give the name. Okay, so I want to create a component called something called card, just like a regular. Nggc card is my component name. App card, you can use a custom tag. Nggc card. So go to the interpolation folder. CLS, yeah, NGGC card, enter. So it creates your HTML, CSS, and everything. HTML, spec.ts, TS, CSS, and also does some updation in the app module, the root module. Fine. Now check in interpolation. We got a card. Sorry, we got a card. In that we have card component. Okay, fine. Let me add this to my app. For that, I can see that on the screen. App card added to the app component, main app component. So you can see some default content. Every component will have some default content called the name works like that. Okay, if you go to app card .html, so card works static text. Okay, fine. So now let's understand what is meant by data binding. Okay. So this is your TS file and this is your HTML. Generally, if you're talking about DOM manipulation concept in JavaScript and HTML, you will write something in HTML. In JavaScript, you say document.get element by ID, event listener. So long story for plain DOM manipulation. But here is very simple. For example, you have some data. Generally, TS file contains some data, and that data, if you want to display here, we use this interpolation data binding. All data binding concept is same. Okay, so bind between HTML to TS, TS to HTML. Okay, for example, I have public some variable like a, um message of type string because we have a TS file. It's a type script. Okay, so message. I have something called good morning. Some static message. Future will see some dynamic messages, dynamic data like arrays, array of objects and all. So array of employees like that. So I have just message called good morning. And how can I display this good morning message on my HTML? See, if on your HTML only just card works is there. Okay, I want to display that content. So what you do is instead of this one you can write some h1 tags like bigger content. So you use this interpolation double curly braces. Okay, inside you can use any variable name. Okay, this is representing your ts file variable. Okay, so you will make double curly brace, that's Angular expression. In React JS we use single curly brace. Okay, so we use msg. So how I got msg is, here I have declared msg variable, and that msg I substitute here. So what happened, h1 tag contains good morning. Okay. Now what I do is, for example, due to some data changes at server side, this is not changed. This is changed to good afternoon for some automated system. I think internal code, it has changed it. So as soon as I save it, automatically your browser changed to good afternoon. So you have some data, and that data I have binded to HTML. Generally, DOM manipulation you do ID and get element by ID dot inner HTML, inner text you will do. But here it is interpolation. You have some data, and that data you display over here. That's one kind of data binding using interpolation. Okay, but I don't like this very dummy example like this. I have just showed how to do it, but I want to make a proper setup for this, because we are already learn the bootstrap. I hope you have done it. Okay, so let's make some setup actually. So container, one row. Okay, single column d3, or let's say 4, one card. So one card header. Okay, and one card body. Okay, so card header I just starts with bg success, text white. Okay, let's make some margin top 3. Basic bootstrap setup, I have a card now. Okay, fine. I think it's very simple card, small card. Just column d6 you make, so half card will come. Okay, you got a card. So on top of this card header, I want to display my good morning message or good afternoon message. So how you do, you will write I mean, which tag you want, you can do it. You can just write, I just write p.h4. I'll take to paragraph with a class called h4. H4 is a class name of bootstrap. In that I will make double curly braces msg. So whatever variable you declare, automatically that variable name will come automatically as a hint. See, if I say msg has come. Okay, so msg has dynamically substituted with the value called good afternoon. Okay, so any static text you want to display, you can write like this. So p dot lead, some large content, let's say lorem 30 tab. So you get some dummy paragraph also like this. So this is dynamic, and this is just static content. Okay, fine. So there are some small there are some small limitations of this content, this story. We'll discuss what is that. For example, from server side, I'm getting data like this format, right? G is uppercase and A is uppercase, like this format I got it, right? But I want to display this content not just like that. I want to display complete uppercase. So I'm getting this format, but I'm on a display on my screen complete uppercase. So sir, what we can do? I'm getting this data like this only. Okay, not as it is. I want to convert to uppercase. So what you can do is, you can go to here, your MSG variable dot. There's a function called to uppercase you do. Okay, you can even call the function, because MSG is what is declared as a string type. So you can call string related functions on a variable. Okay, so you can do like this. So MSG dot to uppercase, you get the uppercase. Along with that, in Angular we have the filter concept, also pipe concept. You can actually do some uppercase filter, you can do. Okay, it also converts to uppercase, but I'm not just talking about the pipes concept of Angular, that we'll see in our coming classes, but I'm just talking about the regular JavaScript functions which are available for every variable. If it is a string, you can make a string related functions. So uppercases, now it display uppercase. If you want to make it lowercase, so you can just set to lowercase. So you get the everything into lowercase, right? Sometimes what happen, I sometimes want to display the length of, suppose you have an array of certain employees, right? So I want to display the number of employees. So what you do, array dot length, just like the string also we have a length, right? So number of characters I want to display. How you display the number of characters is I think I just write in the next paragraph. Expression, just say msg dot length. Okay, regular string function, you get the length of good morning. So 14, length is 14, but this card not looks good if you make a 14. So I just remove it. So you can call any of the function depend on this one. If it is string functions, if it is a number functions. Okay. For example, if you have to take a number, let let's say something called price of type number. Okay, so price is around some 580 rupees. This number is there. Assume from server in database I have data in this format like 580 number. Okay, so if you want to display this 580 on my HTML, so what you do is I write in the card body somewhere here h3 tag. Okay, so how you display? It is just a variable, right? Price. I want to display that. So what you do? Expression like this. So price. If you write what happened, what's the value? 580. So as it is 580, we'll display here. When you see 580 has come. Okay, sometimes what happens, sir, I don't want 580, I want 580.00, two fraction digit I want. So what you generally do is in JavaScript also you can do this. Dot to fixed you can do, comma 2 you pass. So fraction of digits is 2. I have not provided this fraction digits something. It's come automatically. I just provide only 2 fixed of 2. I show you what I have typed there because it makes you clear. I just typed only this one, price of 2 fixed of 2 I typed. Okay, so this hint has come automatically, just ignore it. Only for WebStorm you get this type of hint to understand this parameter goes to which property. Fine, so price dot 2 fixed. Okay, so you got dot 00 automatically, right? And generally if you want to display the rupee symbol, see at server side we never store rupee symbol. Maybe you will make a simple column called what is that currency, what is that currency. Okay, but in JavaScript generally what you do, you will make ampersand hash 8377 semicolon. In this way you will write it. This is HTML, what do you call, this is something HTML concept, no? Okay, so you will get the symbols like that, like this. Okay, so this is one way you can display some content. See, we just have 580 this number, but I have displayed the rupee symbol dot 500. Actually, instead of doing this much, generally JavaScript will do like this. I have showed in JavaScript way. In Angular, we have a filter also. Instead of doing this, we have filter concept, but I'm not talking about filters concept now, but I just show you in filter concept how it works is price. Instead of doing all the story, you can just say this filter, this is a filter symbol. Okay, pipe symbol, currency is a filter. So what happened, price will display in a currency format below, but by default displays in dollar. Okay, but if you want to display in a rupee, you will make like this colon INR like this. So currency code is Indian rupees like not INR, I think it should be caps. Okay, rupee symbol. See, you got the same answer, but there is a provision you can just call some functions of the variable also in expression. So it's just expression, not only just that one. Expression means you can do any kind of expression. Let's say something called 10. If you write a static number, you get the 10 over there. Okay, sir, I want to write, so 10 into 20 I write. Okay, that's expression, right? So you can just write any kind of expression inside. So 10 into 20 you get the answer as 200 like that. Okay, so you can just make some mathematical calculations also, but there is a limitation. There is a limitation. What is the limitation? Sir, I can call up functions like this, fine, but sir, I want to display the date. Okay, current date is 21st September. So I want to display the current date here. Sir, how to do? Generally, JavaScript, how to display the date? You will make what? New date dot to local. What do you do? Local date string, right? Okay, to local date string, you will make a function. So you get the proper date, current date as per the local. If you execute in India, Indian date will come. If you execute in USA, USA date will come. Okay, as per the current time. So this how you do in JavaScript. Sir, I want to display same date on my Angular also. Just display the current data. Okay, sir, how to do that? Okay, let's try then. You can't do it, but I show you. Expression. Can I say new date dot to? Actually, for new date itself is you got error. Let's say you got red color. It says unresolved function called data. Okay, even if you go there, I think you get some no error. You should get the error. Yes, it is not display anything. Okay, if you go to console, you get a lot of errors, I hope. Yeah, console. See, you got Angular JAT compilation fail. So Angular doesn't understand what you have written there. Okay, so what is the problem is, I tell you, this particular expression can only deal with the related functions of an object but not a global object. So you can't write a global objects here. A global object means what? We have a date object. Okay, date object directly you can't write in expression, and a math object, and then string object, directly string object, or directly number object, or this one set interval, set timeout, those things. So those are all like global objects. So global objects cannot be written in this expression. It is just expression. It doesn't know what is JavaScript because this is hardly dedicated to the HTML. Okay, sir, then can't we display the date or time on the screen? Yes, you can display, but not that way. Okay, I tell you how you display date. First, let me make it back to dude. Array, where is my content, dude? This looks funny, huh? I got everything right, no error, right? Then what's the problem? Let me check one more time. What is this console error? You got some two errors again. The pipe currency could not be found. Why? Why could not be found? If I don't write. Hey, this looks something weird, man. How come currency filter is not found? Currency of type INR. Some build issue. It actually works. Same problem, huh? How does it? Okay, fine. Just ignore this. Anyway, we discussed this concept in pipes. It's supposed to work, but I have to do some workaround. Okay, fine. Just ignore that. We will do it with filters concept, pipes concept. Fine. So like this, sir, I want to display date here. So date directly you can't do it. So what we can do is you can make some sort of function because TypeScript file can able to access any of the global object of JavaScript. Okay. So if you want to display the data, generally what people used to do is display data. So you can make a function. Just say public get data is a function. Okay, so what this function does is it just return. You can have access to global data here. Okay, global objects. So return new data dot to locale date string like this. Okay, fine. And so you made a function, and when you call this function, it will give you back a string. This returns a string, so you get a string. So I want to display that on my screen. Simply, you just call this function. It means in the place of here h3 tag I write expression, instead of not just variable, I have a function. So you want to get the written type of this on the screen, you can just call the function. So you just say get data, you can call a function from here. So this function will return this story. So now you get the data. Okay, so small limitation for this template, I mean interpolation, is you can't directly access the global objects of JavaScript in this HTML using this operator. So instead you can make it in a function, and you can do any kind of alteration you want, reverse string function, any kind of logic you write. So that result of that logic you want to display, just call the function, so that return type of that expression is going to display on the screen. Okay, looks good. Fine, sir. I won't display the current time. How you display current time? You can just say h3, but I can't access the global variable. So you can just create another function. Let's say, for example, display time. Okay, so public get time. You have a function. I mean, it's just a method. Okay, because it's a class. Okay, object oriented. So I return new date dot to locale time string, the current time, right? Generally we can call like this in JavaScript. Okay, and I want to print that time on my screen. So how to do? You can just call this function, this method. So how I do is make an interpolation. So get time. Okay, so you gets the current time. You get the current time. So it is 6:51 now. Okay, so I refresh, it updates to 6:51:17. If you update 20 like that. But okay, you may think about something else. Sir, I want to display some digital watch, right? I don't want to refresh every time. I want to make that happen internally, but I want to display the original digital clock on my screen. Yes, of course, you can do that with interpolation, but some small modification. Generally, how you display that in JavaScript, you will call a function called set interval, right? Set interval function, you will make it for every second. You'll update the existing time, right? The same story you can do, but set interval is a global function of JavaScript, so that you can't do directly here. So obviously you have to do with TypeScript. Okay, I tell you how to display the digital watch. So can we do one thing? Can we make another nice card like this, and then this side I'll display. Okay, so can we do call MD6 is over. So another call MD 6 in that one card. So card header and also the card body. Okay, so card header I'll just take BG secondary and the text to white. Okay, and card body, let's add some nice BG light color. Okay, so you get okay, fine, like this. And here I will write some heading. So p dot h3 or h4. I'll write digital. You can write normal without styles also. You can do it, but without styles, you can't really imagine the advantage of Angular. So I just mix Bootstrap with Angular. Okay. So digital watch is my heading. You get the digital watch. Sir, how to display the digital watch here is there's a story. You can create a variable public time. Time is equal to, so new date dot to locale time string, no locale time string, like this. Okay, and if it returns a string, so time will be of type string only. Okay, so time is equal to, you have called a function like this, but I want to display this particular time on the screen. Okay, so what we do is, can we modify this get time function to return this time? So I want to slightly update this. What I do is, I'll write some set interval of one function and 100 sorry 1000 milliseconds. Inside I will update the time. Okay, so this dot time is equal to, again, new date dot dot to locale time string, like this. Okay, so when you call this function, it keep updating your time in local. Okay, fine. And how you want to display this? Okay, so how to display, you just print the time over there. So in this card body I write some h3 with a class called some bigger text, so display 3 or 4. I display expression time. So what happens? It has to refresh. Okay, you get the time. So it is just updating automatically. We are not refreshing, but you get the time. Okay, This how you will make it. So only one small this thing is in expression. You can make only expression, but you can't access the global objects of JavaScript. So for that, you can make a your own function, and you can call the function from here. Okay, directly you can't access, but make a function and do it. That is possible. Okay, fine. That's about interpolation story of Angular. Now let's move on to another concept called property binding. Sir, what is this property binding? Is, for example, binding. Binding means data I want to bind to HTML. Okay, so in interpolation, it's slight different between these two. Okay, interpolation, how you bind the data is how you bind the dynamic data is, see here, in between the tag, in between the tags, I have bind the data like expression. See, just observe here, between the tag, in the place of inner HTML, I have bind it here also, between the tag, between the tag, between the tag. So between the tag you can bind data, but sometimes I want to make this property, this attributes value dynamic, right? BG success, I want to make it dynamic. The column D6 I want dynamic. So row I want dynamic. Container I want dynamic. So something, an attribute of a tag, I want to make it dynamic. Okay, not just a content. Okay, I want to make this attributes also dynamic, because mostly we use it for images. Okay, mostly we use this property binding for images. For example, generally paragraph means you will write a paragraph. Inside the paragraph you will write some curly braces, you can display some content, right? But I want to display the dynamic image. For example, I want to display the product image dynamically from server. So how to do that? So image tag, we won't write image tag inside image name and slash image, not like that. Image will be having src attribute, right? Src. So src I can't make like this. Yeah, of course you can do this way also, that's provision also there in Angular. But if you want to bind in a particular, in a proper way, bind to this attributes of a tag, okay, not just in between the tag. If you want to update anything dynamic attribute value, you can use this something called props binding. So you can write like this, you can write in the brackets src is equal to the actual value, like image dynamic value, like this. This is called props binding. Okay, you don't need to write this one for attributes. You can use the props binding like brackets. Okay, I just show you how it is, but for that I need an example of some other component. I don't want to touch this, close everything. uh, Let me comment this guy, comment, so nothing will display. We do from scratch. Okay, I think, man, it's just refresh now. What's the problem? Generally if you do any changes, it will input box, yeah, every form things you can do it, you can do it. Okay, yeah, fine. So let me create a separate component for this story. What for props binding, I'll make some separate component. What is that component is, yep, somewhere in props binding we create only folder. Inside I want to create one component, so right click on this. I create in open terminal, because we can create a component for that. So inside props binding, I want to create a component called something. Um, I want to display something called country. Not country. I have a plan of discussing some images out there, like 4 cards with the dynamic images. Okay, so previously we made it with data bind, I mean interpolation. So can we take something called um, okay, tour hyphen card. Oh, how to create it? NGGC tour card. Okay, that's my company name. Okay, you can create any name. Okay, ABCD, but ABCD not looks good, so some meaningful name. So NGGC tour card, and don't make underscore. You can use more words and hyphen. Just use hyphen. Okay, don't give space also. If you give space, it'll become 2 components. Okay, just press enter. So it will create a component. Oh, it's done. Let me configure that here. I just commented this. While practicing, you enable this and check. Okay, so I'll just make another one. It's app tour card. Okay, so whenever you create a component, the default message will be the card name works like this. The default message for every component is created. If you go to HTML, that's what it is. Okay. So what's my plan is I want to create some four cards just like our bootstrap example, but I want to use the props binding concept here. Okay. Sir, how this possible? For example, in my app, there is a assets folder. In the assets image folder, one, two, three, four cards are there. So previously we have hard coded this data, right? Assume this URLs are coming from the server. Okay, but we have not configured server. Let me take some variables here. Okay, you will receive and you attach some local variables of TS file. So I will get that one. Okay, so how you import then? Okay, let me write something. Dot slash dot slash. I think it's again dot slash assets slash image slash card one. Okay, this will be the address of each card, dynamic address. I just do it here. Okay, so I write here public, let's say card, not card is image, no? So image underscore one is equal to, I give some path like this one variable. Okay, so like this I have multiple variables, like four variables. Control D you do, oh, I mean multiple. Okay, control D, yeah. So this is image 2 and this is image 3 and this is image 4. So let's make this is card2 dot jpg, and yeah, I hope all are jpg. This is 3 and this is 4. Okay, I have some variables, but not just uh, text or something. It is just dynamic address. I want to display the image based on this name. Okay, generally you get the profile picture like this way, some Google address or server address. So I want to display that. So in this case, how to use this? See here. If you go to HTML, okay, so I make image tag. So src, you can actually write double curly braces, image one. You can do this way. You can do this way. So src will dynamically substitute with image one. So you get the first image like this. Okay, in place of this I say image 2, you get the second image. Okay, this is one way. The best way of binding each property of a tag is props binding. So the better way than this one is you can make src in the brackets is equal to image 1, just like that. This is another way. This is called props binding. You can bind any dynamic data to the property of or attribute of a tag. So you get the image. Okay, this is how you bind it, but I don't like this dummy example. I want to make nice cards. Okay, so can we do that? Yes, of course. You can do one container, one row, single column D3. Let's make some margin of 3. Okay, here I want to make a card, one card body. Oh, card body. Yeah, in this I will take an image src. I don't want this, like I want to make props binding src image one. You can just say some alt, there's nothing. So you get a image, but this image is spread across like this. You want to fit it there. You will write the class called image fluid from bootstrap. You get the perfectly fit to this column level like this. Okay, you got image. We have binded with property binding, and inside you want to display something. So p tag, just say lorem 30 30 tab. You get some static text like that. Okay, 30 too much. Let's make some 20 tab. Okay, a small card like that. And you want to make a button, you can make it. Fine. Just like that, I need multiple because I have four images container. So can we copy this entire column D3? Yeah, this is the row. No, this is the row. Okay, copy this. So let's paste it and then paste it and then paste it. So I have four cards. Okay, so all four cards with same image. Now I want to change the image. So how to do? Here in the place it is image2. I know I tell you how to loop it through the multiple instead of writing these many cards. Okay. In future you will display some hundreds of employees in a card format, right? Every employee one image, so you will receive data in array format. So how you display is you will loop it. There is something called ng for loop, just like a for loop you write only one card you have to write, but that concept we'll see in the coming classes. But I just now just four variables I have binded to property binding to an image like this. Fine. Along with that, why can't we use the, because we learn the interpolation, right? So why can't we use interpolation concept also here? What I do is, instead of taking simple strings, I can take an array, right? So let's say public. I think these are what, places. Places of type string is equal to, not places. Instead, I can take something called tours. Tours is equal to string array. You got error because there is no string inside. I make, what's the problem? String array not assignable to string. Oh, sorry. It's a string array. Okay, fine. Tours, I think this is Paris. Okay, and second one, I think this is some, I don't know, this is something called Bangkok. Bangkok. No, Bangkok. Okay, this is, I think, Indonesia. What I'm doing? Sorry. Indonesia. Spelling wrong, huh? Indonesia. NE. Okay. Okay, fine. Mostly we'll type with WhatsApp and also automatic correction will come, but this is not. This is, I think, Malaysia. Malaysia. Wow, super. Fine. I got to four places, four tours. I want to display this each here as a heading. Okay, how you do? Heading display means this text between a tag, right? So you can use the uh, interpolation concept. So how you get only Paris tours of 0, because 0th element, first element, second element, third element, index base. Okay, so what's my plan is, below in the card body I make some p dot h 4. I will write expression now because text between the tag is expression. Remember, attribute is this one, props binding. So I use here tours of 0. Okay, so what happens? Paris. Okay, fine. Just like that, I need something here in the card body. I use tours of 1. Okay, and based on the index I'm doing, tours of 2. Instead of doing all this, you have a for ng for directive. You can just make one card and even 1,000 elements also will display, but that we'll see in the coming classes. But as of now, manual way, like data binding like this. Let's check. Yep. So I got the data missed type in image variable, type. What is that? Image tag. Correct, no? Okay. So you got four cards, and now what we understood here is it is property binding, and these are the normal interpolation binding. Okay, property binding we use for properties, I mean attributes, and this is just for a normal text. Okay, fine. And then let's discuss another concept called events binding. Yeah, this is very, very important because events binding complete story, we have a separate class. Okay, events binding means a lot of good examples are there, like checkboxes, radio button, hobby selector, some good examples also there. But as of now, just see at least the basic understanding. How can you bind between the events? In JavaScript, what we do, when you click on a button, you apply on click is equal to one function, and you write the function in JavaScript, right? So how you do that type of events binding in Angular is this curly brace. You know what? Generally, JavaScript, what you do, on click is equal to one function like a, message function you call like this, right? But in Angular it's very simple. This is what you are binding. You can just say click, is equal to one function like msg, like this you have to call. Okay, this called click event, not on click. You just bind it with uh, this parenthesis. I mean this brackets like that. Okay, so can we do this one? Okay, we can do. So for that, I want another example for events binding. So can we? Okay, let me close all, close this, and I remove that. Where is app? Yeah, app component. I just comment this out. I don't want to display anything. So it is just back to original empty. While practicing, you just enable. Okay, if you enable this guy, it will display that one. If you enable this one, you get both now. Okay, both example you see this one and this one. I don't want to show that as of now because I want to focus only one thing. So let me comment that out. Okay, so while practicing, you enable and check.
What is the shortcut of commenting?
Commenting regular, just select it, Control Shift to forward slash.
Okay.
Okay, so CTRL plus Shift plus this slash. Okay, uncomment also select it, Control Shift to forward slash. Okay, fine. And yeah, so now let's start with events binding. I want a separate story because I want to create a separate component. Okay, so we create a separate folder for that events binding. Inside, I want to create a component. So right click on this folder, open in terminal here. Okay, CLS, clear screen. Okay, so NGGC, something. Let's say message. All cards only. Message or just say MSG shortcut MSG card, message card. Okay, enter. Okay, so setup ready. So let me configure that one here. MS, I think app. It starts from app. Okay, app MSG card. So you will, if you write this, you get the default message there. Message card works. That's a default message for every component. Fine. Okay. So what's my plan is I tell you some story. What is the story? I think I have a ready-made example. This is over. This over. This is we'll see later. Where is that one? Ah, here. Events binding. Yeah, this example easy to understand. Very simple example. This is one card actually. I can draw the diagram before I show this, but with this you easily understand. So I have a card and card body. Hello is a message, default message. Okay, from the interpolation you display this. Okay, actually this data come from the background TS file. Okay, so what's my plan is very simple. When I click on this good morning button, I want to convert this to good morning. When I click on good afternoon, I want to display good afternoon. When I click on good evening, good evening. Very basic example. In future, we'll see more events binding. Okay, so let's see how you, how you configure the data binding in the components. Okay, we'll see that. So now let's start with events binding this story card. So let me create a one container. Let's make a design and then we'll discuss container row call MD8, I think. One card and then one side card body. Okay, I think card header also there. Okay, so card header with BG dark and then text to white. Let's write something margin top 3. Yep. Here, let's write something called p.h4. Let's say events binding. Events binding. Okay. So let's check how it is. Events binding. Yeah. Inside, I want some text and 3 buttons. So let's make some text with p.h3. Let's say some message will come here and then 3 buttons. So let's make 3 buttons with the class what BT and some green color button, success and one small button. Okay, message is good morning. So like this, I have 2 other buttons. I made Control D, D for delete to copy the previous line. So BTN minus warning. This is good afternoon, not good warning. Okay, so BTN minus danger. Okay, so this is good evening. No, no good night. Okay, good evening. Okay, So I have what I have message. Okay, fine. So now what is the plan? Property binding where we use interpolation, where we property binding and where we use interpolation. Property binding for a specific, I told right, specific attribute. Interpolation mostly a text between the tag. Okay, fine. Missed type in image. You can make a string type. Yeah, understood. Interpolation, not this one. In property binding, yeah, I have missed something. Yeah, this one. You have to display the string. So never forget this type of things because TypeScript itself has come to make this type safety. Fine. So I have fine. Now I want to display this dynamic. Okay, how you do in this? I create a variable somewhere public MSG of type string is equal just say hello. Okay, I have some text message hello. I want to display the hello on the place of message. So what you do? Where is the message? Here in the place of here text between the tags. So obviously you go with uh, interpolation. Use brackets. I mean this Angular expression. You just use MSG. So hello will display automatically here. And even if you change this to something else, it automatically updates to that one. So it is binded. So this binding actually, if you do some changes the TS file, it updates in the HTML one way. I want reverse way. What is that? I will do something on HTML, then I want to update the background. This one. So this, yeah, I tell you, this thing is from template. I mean from TS file to template. This is from .ts file to .html. It means if you do something in TS file, automatically in HTML it updates this way. For example, in TS file I change to hello. Okay, I change in the TS file hello. So what happened on my HTML? It changed to hello. So from HTML to here, I want to do reverse. What means I will do some event handling here. I mean some events, user events, like just like click event as of now. When I click on this, when I do something on my HTML, then I want to modify the background, this message. So how you do is event handling generally. So when I click on this button, I want to update this to message. Okay, so for that you can create a function. Okay, create a method. Okay, so let's say a method called public say good morning, one function, one method. Okay, so what this method will do is existing this variable I change it. So how can you access the local variables of a class is this keyword. I say this dot messenger is equal to, I'm changing to good morning. It means whenever you call this method, it will change the local variable to good morning. If it is changed good morning, automatically this is already configured as data binding here. So if you change this to good morning, so here it will display good morning. Any function update to good evening, it automatically update to good evening, and that's what will display on the screen. Simple. So I want to call this method. Okay, because this method updates to good morning. When to call? When I click on this button, I want to update. So when I click on this button, I call. So how to apply the click event for the particular function of a TS file is generally JavaScript you write on click here, just click like this in brackets, and here say good morning function. Very simple, just like this. Okay, so whenever I click on this particular button, okay, it's called the method, and that method is updating the good morning to this message local, and that message I'm displaying on here. So automatically when you click on the button, this will update to good morning. Now check, when I click on this button, update to good morning. Simple, right? Okay, I want some other functions like good afternoon, good evening. So you can just make another function. Let's say uh, good afternoon, good afternoon. It updates to good afternoon. And one more, I say another function called good evening, and this will change to good evening. Okay, so two functions. So how to call them? When you click on, I want to call. Let's say click events, click, say good afternoon, and when you make a click again, say good evening, like this. Okay, this is how you will bind it to the functions of a TS file. That's actually a method. Okay, when I click on it, call this method that updates the local variable of here. So let me check now. Good afternoon. So when component is loaded, first time no button click. As soon as the component is loaded, I have some default message because when the component is loaded, default message is hello. That's what. Sorry, that's what he's here. Okay, when I click on, then it will change. Okay, click on this. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. Simple. Okay, simple. Or else you can do some other way. You may ask a question, sir, just to update a simple message, do we really have to create three functions? Of course, you can create a single function and you can pass some value as well, right? I'll show you another way. Instead of creating three functions for this, you can make it easy way. Sir, how? How is you can do? Okay, I'll show you in the same example. Instead of doing the three functions, you can comment them. You can make only one function. What is that? Just like regularly we do this in JavaScript also. So display message, separate method. So here you're not providing anything, but statically you're updating. What is your plan now is I'll provide a value and that value I'll update to my local message dot msg is equal to value. You can just make a single function to do that. Okay, now what? Display message, it takes the value whatever you provide from the HTML that will assign to my MSG. So how to call this? You have to call this function with the value. How to do is not say good morning, just say display message of good morning because this function expects a value of type string. Okay, this expects a value of type string, so I'm just providing string. So just like this, I copy, I will call this one and I'll call this one. Okay, this is called good afternoon and this is called good evening. Okay, fine. So on click display message good morning, good afternoon, good evening. You can also do that single function with different value. Whatever the value you provide, that's what update to my local MSG. That's what configured on my HTML for data binding. So automatically it will work. See, even after refresh. Okay, it will work. Generally we can do the same story in JavaScript also instead of making three functions, but okay, you can do this way or this way. Okay, this is one example of events binding. Okay, fine. uh, Fine, after long time I don't want to discuss more concepts. Okay, from tomorrow pakka 2 hours, and I think yeah, pretty sure no more leaves. Okay, so we'll discuss complete 2 hours from tomorrow, right? So let's wind up today's class and let's recap what we discussed. We just discussed data binding concept. It means how to bind data between your HTML and TS, just component level. Future will see services like interceptor, guard, right? Models and NGRX. Long story. Let's only focus on now components. So how to bind is four ways: interpolation, properties binding, events binding, and template reference. We'll see tomorrow. And we also some one more example on this. We'll see. And interpolation, we can write some expression. Only problem is you can't access the global JavaScript objects. For that, you have to create a method inside of TS file, and you can call it. And property binding, mostly we use to bind it to any dynamic data with HTML attributes. Okay, this is for events. Just like regular JavaScript events, you can do it, but there is no on click or something. It's just like click is equal to one method. If you want to pass some value, you can pass here. Otherwise, just call empty parameter like this. Okay, but actually in React JS, you never pass brackets. Also, it's a different story. And how to call in React JS is there is something called on capital click will be there. JavaScript is lower case click. In Angular is click. Like this. Small differences are there. Fine. And template reference variable we'll see tomorrow. Any question? Is there any? Yeah, many examples on events, because I have a separate class on events binding. We will definitely see that, and forms binding also separate classes there. We'll see. Can we get JavaScript playlist code? Oh, I didn't share. Okay. Today I'll share it. Okay, code playlist code I share. You can practice because I have it. I think somewhere in workspace, YouTube workspace, I have JavaScript. Yeah, these are the files. These are all the examples. Last image upload example, no? So these are all the code what I did in my YouTube JavaScript. I share it. Okay, I share today as a zip file in the same drive location. Okay, you can see that. Fine, and can also give HTML, CSS, JavaScript notes. Okay. I'll give that PDF. I have it. Definitely, I'll share it because if you learn, that's good actually. Fine, we'll see. And yeah, so that's it today's class. And tomorrow we will discuss the more concepts of Angular. Thank you so much for understanding, and thank you.